Hi everyone, this is Reverend Josh at Boise First United Church of Christ. We're so glad you've chosen to listen to our sermon this morning. We hope that you find yourself encouraged as we meet you wherever you are on life's journey.
My name is Rudy Baker Jambretz. My pronouns are she and they. I have the honor this morning of reading a writing that I created during our class from Writing as a Spiritual Practice, and I want to thank Laura and all of the fellow human beings in that class. The title of this writing is Sanctuary. In a fishing boat, hunting for night crawlers at night with a flashlight, driving the John Deere tractor doing chores at the resort, planting the yearly family garden with my parents, draining the swamp with Auntie Marion and cleaning the stuck waterways, swimming in the river, playing softball with my new lesbian friends, family gatherings around the picnic table, going on bike rides with my best friend Mickey, our miniature poodle. Being out in nature and exploring is my childhood sanctuary. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Frosty. My pronouns are they, them. And I'm going to start out today with a poem. I actually didn't even know that Rudy was going to be reading a poem, but I think that's so beautiful. Sometimes I really struggle to find my words, and I express how I'm feeling through art. This is a poem by Sarah Ryan. I'm broken from grief, but my grief is not broken. I was not built to lose something as I did, but the grieving part feels primal. The deep, unending, shameless loving feels like a contract I signed when my soul first slipped into my skin. I've actually never had something come to me so naturally before. Thousands of years ago, we carved pictures of people and places and things we loved into stone. I refuse to pretend I am any different just because skyscrapers replaced cave walls. I am still here, carrying around photos and crying over bones, begging the world not to forget them. We've known how to grieve since we were stardust. I will not be convinced that out of everything we've become, this is the part that needs fixing. I often say that I'm living in a constant state of grief. And this isn't sad, and this isn't a way for me to ask for pity. I actually find it beautiful. I grieve so much and so deeply because I love so much and so deeply. I'm living in a time of transition right now. I just graduated with my undergrad degree. I'm moving houses. A lot of my friends are moving. I'm finding full-time work, learning how to be an adult without education. But as I was reflecting over this time of transition, I realized that we're always living in transition, aren't we? Growing, changing, gaining new friends, losing friends, starting jobs, losing jobs, moving. And like Sarah Ryan said, we've known how to grieve since we were stardust. I find it really comforting, knowing that this is a feeling that many have felt before me, and hopefully many will feel after me. I think a lot about the disciples grieving, followers of Jesus, leaving the jobs, the life that they knew. I think a lot about Peter. He was one of the first followers of Jesus. And I don't know about you, but I think that would make it a lot harder for me to uproot my life. And then, at the Last Supper, Jesus tells his followers that he will be gone soon. I can't imagine the grief in that room, the heaviness, losing not just the Messiah, but losing a friend, someone they've known. Transitioning so quickly, only 3 years of changing their lives completely, and then finding out that it's going to be gone again. Jesus tells Peter that he will deny him 3 times, and he does to a group of people. I'm sure that Peter felt so sad and so scared and so angry and upset. I bet he didn't want to believe that Jesus was going to be crucified. So he denied it to not only the other people, but to himself. And we're told denial is one of the 5 stages, right? My grandfather passed away a few years ago, and he meant so much to me. He was my spiritual mentor and taught me everything about my spirituality before I started coming to church. And I'm sure we've all related to that. I'm sure that we've all lost someone that we care very deeply for, especially when there's someone important to you spiritually. I was living in Boise, as I am now, and none of my family lives here. So I felt very alone. Even though I had friends around me, it's hard. It's comforting knowing that the people around you are going through the same thing. And I hope that the followers of Jesus realized that too. They were all going through the same thing. They could be there for each other. During the Last Supper, Jesus says this quote from John 16, verse 20. "Very truly, I tell you, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy." And that is so true. Your grief will turn to joy. We had a celebration of life for my grandfather, not a funeral. It was Mardi Gras themed. I dyed my hair purple for it. It was very joyful. It was very happy. My whole family was together thinking about our grandfather. I learned a lot about him and our family history. We had a lot of laughs, shared a lot of memories. My grief truly turned into joy. But that isn't to say that my grief always turns into joy, or it should turn into joy. Because grief is uncomfortable. But in that moment, during our celebration of life, I finally felt like I wasn't alone. Being surrounded by these people who were going through virtually the same thing that I was. I'm going to quote another poet, because I'm really into poetry, I guess, now. It's from a poet called Ocean Vuong. He is my favorite poet and author. It's titled, "Not Even This." I'm just going to say one line. "Lest we forget, a morgue is also a community center." When I was writing this sermon, it was pretty vague, and I didn't really know what direction I wanted to take. But I sat down, and I meditated, and I prayed. I closed my eyes. I picked up this book, flipped to a random page, and this is what it opened up on. A morgue is also a community center. Death and grief, it's hard, but it brings people together. And to me, that is so beautiful, and that's so human. And something about being human I find amazing. A couple weeks ago, my best friend moved away. We lived together for 2 years. I call her my soulmate, even though it was platonic. I was uncontrollably crying for the entire week that she was gone. I used to be really good at hiding my emotions, swallowing my cries, making sure no one sees, putting on a smile. But for some reason, I couldn't do it anymore. Anytime I talked about her, someone asked me about her, something reminded me of her, I just started crying. You would think she was dead, but she's just in Salt Lake. And at first, this was really uncomfortable. I was crying in front of people that normally I would never cry in front of. People sometimes don't know how to react when you're sobbing. It was sad. I was upset. That grief hasn't yet turned to joy, but I know one day it will. And I have since learned to be grateful for my uncontrollable crying. I used to bottle up my emotions, and they came out so suddenly and so aggressively, and I never liked that. And I am trying to teach myself that crying is not bad, that sadness is not bad, that grief is not bad. It's simply just human, and we're not superheroes, and we're not gods. And in a world that is so demanding of us, a world that is moving so quickly all the time, it's hard. It's hard to be okay with grieving. It's hard to be okay with these uncomfortable emotions. I find myself picking up my phone and scrolling when I start crying because it numbs my feelings. I stop crying and I forget what I was even sad about. But that is not healthy. I'm trying to stop that, and I'm trying to be okay with just crying and feeling and processing and grieving. And we also all need to be open about our grief. I think a lot of the times, again, it is uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean it goes away. And this is such an amazing support system for me. This is a beautiful community. But how are you guys supposed to know I need help if I don't let you know? How are you supposed to know that I'm going through a hard time if I don't let you know? How am I supposed to know that you're going through a hard time if you don't let me know? If you don't cry in front of me, if you don't talk to me, if you don't feel your feelings? I hope that all of the followers of Jesus cried in front of each other. I hope that all of the followers of Jesus grieved together, because grieving together is what makes a community special. It's what makes a community full of love. We can't always be happy and joyful, even though I'm sure we want to be. Grief is just an overwhelm of love and nowhere to put it. And I put it in this church, and I hope that you all find somewhere to put it. A while ago, Laura asked me my relationship to communion. I had never thought about it before. Communion is simply just something that you do because I'm told to. But as I have been thinking about my relationship to communion, as I've been thinking about my relationship to grief and to love, and thinking about that supper, I realized that to me, communion is the grief and the love that we all hold all at the same time. The grief in that room, I am sure, was immense. But Jesus said that your grief will turn to joy. And it did, because that is how we are all here together in building a spiritual community. And I'm so grateful that that grief turned to joy, turned to love, and we were able to make something amazing out of it. So as we approach this communion table today to take communion together, I hope that you consider your relationship to grief, and you consider your relationship to communion, and you consider how you can ask for help so that we are all able to support each other better. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Boise First UCC podcast. We hope you found inspiration, encouragement, and a deeper connection to your faith and community. If you enjoyed today's conversation, we encourage you to subscribe, to leave a review, or share with your friends and family so that they can more quickly find us. Also, if you benefited from today's podcast, we invite you to make a donation at boisefirstucc.org/donate. Until next time, may you go in peace with curiosity and courage and a heart full of hope as we look toward our progressive Christian faith.